Welcome to the 4th episode of Nod-Krai Exordia. In today's episode, we'll be taking a deep dive on the Lightkeepers, one of the 3 main factions that will be involved in the Song of Welcome Moon Arc Conquest. You might ask why I say that, as in why they're one of the main factions. Well, that's because they're in the center of the Scryglass, where the Fatui and the Frostmoon Scions are also placed. Considering the second song in the Life Symphony talks about the Lightkeepers, it is quite evident that they will undoubtedly be heavily involved in this patch. Now, considering the information we got about this faction is not yet complete, I'll be making it into 2 parts of this faction. One is the current lore we have, and the second one is when the new area of Nod-Krai is out, more specifically when the Lightkeepers HQ, the Piramida, is out. I'll be doing the same with the Frostmoon Scions as well because the world quest from Hisi Island is apparently not yet complete. Also, this lore is from the preloaded data mined files, so these are already official and do not contain any leaks. As always, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Glitchxcity and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. But before that, Flins, the most anticipated character throughout the Song of Welcome Moon, is finally here, who is the first Lunar Charge DPS with strong damaging capabilities. Alongside him is Yelan, one of the strongest and still is the most relevant Hydro sub DPS right now. Just for a quick reminder, the double top-up rewards also reset during the beginning of the Song of Welcome Moon patch, and if you need extra promo gems to pull for them, then allow me to introduce you to Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a reliable site for a fast, secure, and super reliable top-up experience for a Genesis Crystal. Additionally, they provide 25% discounts compared to normal prices in-game, and support both PlayStation and Xbox as well. All you need is to enter your UID, nothing else, so your privacy is guaranteed, and your items will arrive to your account in less than 2 minutes. During the anniversary, you can obtain the first double top-up rewards through Loot Bar with special discounts, just like how I got mine when I top up right now. If you want to obtain all of the first double top-up rewards in one go, they offer an all-in-one package as well. Aside from me, a lot of content creators including Dukaja and Jello Impact are using Loot Bar as well, and over 20,000 Trustpilot reviews are showing their satisfaction after using Loot Bar. Not only that, their customer service is always available if you need assistance. Other than Genshin Impact, Loot Bar is also available for other games as well, such as Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, Zelda Zone Zero, etc. Click the link in the description below and register to get an additional 10% coupon that can be combined with all of the discounts and receive special discounts for returning customers. With that said, let's continue on to the content. Nod-Krai Exordia Chapter 4 The Lightkeepers. Before we start, let me just preface this. I am a lisp on letter R. Shocking, I know, especially that I'm an Asian. I get plenty of comments correcting my pronunciation if I spell these names in American way, and I also get plenty of comments asking about my R. Just know, I am not trying to make fun of these names. I'm still practicing, and I'm trying to unlisp myself from the very beginning anyway. That said, if the way I spell these names are weird and inconsistent, you know the reason why. Now let's continue. We are first exposed to the story of the Lightkeepers from the Song of Welcome Moon event and also the Long Night South artifact set. However, as we go, we are introduced to more lore and also clarifications on what this faction is about along with their history. If you've finished Hisi Island's world quest, you can talk to Verna again at the Frostmoon Enclave, where she basically gave the most TLDR lore about the Frostmoon Scions, but things she told us will be relevant in this video as well. Anyways, this faction is strongly connected with the Frostmoon Scions, the Fatui, the Wild Hunts, and of course the Treasure Hoarders, and even the Snowland Phase as well. In fact, the reason this faction was made to begin with was to honor the leader of the Treasure Hoarders' wish, as the two are actually childhood friends. The leader of the Treasure Hoarders at the time was Reed Miller, who eventually became an extremely famous thief and hero apparently, while the first Torch Forger is Solofey, a once noble from Snezhnaya, who soon lived in obscurity at the borderland for unknown reasons. Solofey's family is often associated with the Nightingale bird, hence one of the talent materials that is used for Flins. Solofey was in awe when Reed Miller's wish in making their homeland as a paradise, and this wish became Solofey's purpose to do just that. It's important to note that Solofey's family also served Belit Tsar during that time. When the Cataclysm struck, Solofey's elder brother died during that time, and the polearm used as Flint's signature weapon was first wielded by Solofey's brother. He then took the polearm and used it to fight against the Abyss. He then collaborated with Ayla, the first moon chanter of the Frostmoon Scions, to defeat the Abyss. Whether this was the Wild Hunts or just abyssal monsters in general, so far there's no information on that, but just know that either way, this is when the Abyss first invaded Nod-Krai during the Cataclysm. The second one, however, the one in the Long Night's Oath Bloom to the Circlet set, is confirmed to be the Wild Hunt, where the peak of this battle is when Flins awakened for the first time, which I will talk about in a bit because Flins' character story reveals more about the Lightkeepers and the Cryo Archons. Anyways, Salovey and Ayla collaborated in defeating the Abyss, and while doing this, Salovey tasked Alia to go to Pillar of Embla in order to end the abyssal catastrophe once and for all. What happens to Ayla during that time is still unknown, but it is implied that she survived on what happened at the time, and even became the first Moon Chanter to reshape the Hyperborean rites within the Frost Moon Scions. Either way, we'll talk more about the Frost Moon Scions in another video. Now back to Salovey. Likely before Ayla left to the Pillar of Embla, she gave Salovey an ancient relic called the Arrow of Tecpicaunas, an ancient relic that is said to be able to purge a designated area contaminated by the Void Realm by using a crystallized power from the Light Realm. It may or may not be related to one of the Moon Sisters' weapon crafted by Nibelang, where it is said in the hymns of the Far North that one of the moons was equipped with a golden bow. Considering this was created on the first day, this moon is likely the Eternal Moon. Anyways, after Ayla gifted the arrow, Salovey managed to defeat the Abyss using it. At the same time, Belly was summoned by the Heavenly Principles to Kyryll in order to purge the nation once and for all, but he fell during this time, and it is implied that the Tsaritsa was present during that time. In any case, Salovey and the survivors then created a lighthouse to gaze upon the new ruler of Snezhnaya, the Tsaritsa, and it is implied in Flins' third character story that he was present when the Tsaritsa ascended to Archonhood, and he was implied to be a Fae living in noble life at the time. In Salovey's case, it is implied that he also attended and even demanded the Tsaritsa for the Borderlands autonomy, defending the lighthouse that he and the survivors created in order to persevere with Miller's wish, who at this time was said to have escaped from his execution. He eventually gained that autonomy, and the land is what we now know as Nod-Krai. Most of the things we knew are basically what the lore in Long Night's Oath says, which I already made a video on, but let me repeat them in a more detailed and updated manner. The Lightkeepers were established, and it is said that it's been a few hundred years since Nod-Krai received their autonomy. Considering that the Kuvaki Experimental Design Bureau was made quite recently, then we can safely assume that everything that happened from the Bloom to Circlet also happened a lot more recently than we might have thought. It could be around 100 years ago or so. Either way, it's a lot more recent than what most artifact sets usually tell their story at. Rerir was also seen to have galloped the sky, and it is likely that this is the time when he is finally consumed by the moon's reflection, likely referring to the false sky, where the Mad Monk was also consumed by it as well. The Wild Hunt is said to grow out of control after that, and this is where the Fatui took this opportunity to wipe out the Lightkeepers by giving them false hope that they'll help them in facing the Wild Hunts, but in reality, they only watched the Lightkeepers slowly decimated from the sidelines. The Piramida being spoken in this artifact set is the inaccessible building we saw at Baha Isle, and it is said that the Starshina at the time was Sigurd, the local legend that power crept I'm not joking, even as an NPC, this guy hits really hard. During this time, it was implied that Piero was present at the time, and so is the Torre. It was Piero who personally gave the Lightkeepers false hope to aid them, but the Lightkeepers were slowly decimated by the Wild Hunts. The battle is said to have been at its peak at Baha Isle and near the Piramida, which makes sense considering Baha Isle was later became the Fatui's bureau for researching and harnessing the Kuvaki. Sigurd unfortunately fell during this time, and his soul continues to linger to fight the Wild Hunt, with his grave now residing in Lempo Isle. We learn in Flins' character demo and his own meeting anecdotes that the Final Night Cemetery was also said to have been the place where the Lightkeepers and the Wild Hunt battled it out, where the lighthouse was used to provide signal to others. This island is also said to be where Flynn set his soul to rest and fell asleep after he left Snezhnaya. For small lore relevancy, Flins was displeased after the Tsaritsa ascended, matching the description of the Snowland phase where they're still loyal to the Tsar. It is said that he has fallen asleep for a very long time, and it was during this time that Flins awakened from his sleep and helped the Lightkeepers in fighting against the Wild Hunt. I'll talk more in detail about this in a second. While the battle was heated, a Fatui officer felt guilty seeing all of this bloodshed happen. Ignoring the rules of the Fatui, this officer entered the battlefield and helped as many people as he could. This act is of course treated as a treason and betrayal, but the Tsaritsa forgave this soldier and he soon joined the Lightkeepers. At the end of Long Night's Oath story, it is implied that this is when Flins was awakened. Now, in the present day, the Lightkeepers are still active in purging the Wild Hunts, but no one is stationed in the Final Night Cemetery except Flins. In fact, this cemetery became the final resting place for the deceased Lightkeepers at the time, hence why we see a lot of ghosts roaming in this area. The canon we experienced during the Archon quest is one time we see the Lightkeepers in action, and they are said to collaborate with the Kling Clan Krumkake Craft Shop in fighting against the Wild Hunts. The canon in Nasha Town is said to be built by Aino, where the Lightkeepers paid her in order to make it. In the current days, the Lightkeepers use the Tide Seal Stones in order to seal the Wild Hunts by using the power of the Kuvaki. You might often see these triangular looking objects in the open world, and these items are indeed placed by the Lightkeepers in order to seal the Wild Hunts away. However, we are revealed in the Archon quest that these Tide Seal Stones are not exactly watertight solutions, meaning when the abyssal energy is stronger than the Kuvaki from the Tide Seal Stone, it will break and have to be resealed again. It's also the reason why you see a lot of Wild Hunt monsters nearby these seals, and that's because they broke out from their seal. We are further revealed in the Archon quest that these Wild Hunt monsters are said to be various corpses scattered all over Nod-Krai, which is the reason why the Wild Hunts are a lot more active during the Archon quest. At the end of Long Night's Oath, it is said that there's another war that will happen in Nod-Krai, and that war could likely refer to the Wild Hunt and Farrier, which I believe we might face in the future. Surprisingly enough, this is all we know about the Lightkeepers so far, but it's important to note that the Lightkeepers are not bowing down to the Tsaritsa. Even if there's more to that, what happened during the Wild Hunt invasion is already a very huge reason why. But either way, if there's more lore about it, you'll have to wait until the second half of this episode comes out. Currently, there are 3 known Lightkeepers that are likely to be playable, that being Flins that is already playable, Iglua, and Nikita. Flins is a Kraknik station in the Final Night Cemetery, Iglua, who is implied to have been stationed at Piramida, while Nikita is the present-day Starshina and also Iglua's father. Do you want to know something though? All of them are confirmed to be male characters. So, if all of them are going to be playable in this patch, we have not only 3 male characters, but 5 playable male characters. If Seamus is also playable, then that makes it 6 playable male characters. Honestly, deserved, because we have very little amount of male playable casts in the last patch. If I have to guess here, Iglua is likely a 4-star and it's possible that he is a Hydro character, while Nikita is likely to be a Cryo or Pyro character and likely to be a 5-star character. But again, you'll have to wait until Piramida is released. Considering Flins is the only character in this faction that we know the most of, let's do a deep dive on him and how relevant he is to the Snowland phase, the Adventurous Guild, his relationship with the Archons, and how he became a Kratnik. Before calling himself Flins, he used to call himself Kyryll, with his title as Kyryll the Azure Flame that guides lost and undead souls to icy plains. He is also implied to have used another form to meet people, but often used his human form on some occasions. It's important to note that he always had his name as Kyryll Chudomirovich Flins, but he only used his last name in the present day because it matches with the current era of Tevat, while his noble name, likely Chudomirovich, is written in the Snezhnayan history. His own name is not, likely because of him doing a self-imposed exile, which I will talk about in a bit. Anyways, during his era in Snezhnaya, he used to be a noble fae, and the Cryo Archon at the time, Belitsar, used to bestow a lot of gifts to the nobility along with starting up balls occasionally. One such gift that was bestowed upon Kyryll was a gem named Tear of the North, a gem that is said to protect its wielder. However, he soon gave it away to a man named Sokolov, who is implied to be the founder of the Adventurous Guilds that we know in the present day. It is said that there used to be blue flames all across Snezhnaya, but it's soon replaced with the red one, assuming that it is the way it is after the Tsaritsa was ascended to Archonhood. Speaking of that, it was after he gave the Tear of the North away that he soon left Snezhnaya, and it is implied that there are a lot of reasons why Kyryll left in the first place. Whether it was because of his dissatisfaction towards Belitsar, the Tsaritsa, or whether he misspoke, and some even say that it has nothing to do with political issues. In reality, however, Kyryll did leave because of politics, purely because of the Tsaritsa's ascension, where he, as a noble fae, was powerless to prevent it from happening. He then chose self-imposed exile, and after his journey throughout snowy plains of Snezhnaya, he found his perfect tomb in a deserted, small little island with a lighthouse. Even though it is meant to be a place for him to just fall asleep, it is also said that he goes all the way to make it as less disturbing as possible and as comfortable as possible. From ancient rituals using Fae languages, the tomb design itself, literally everything you can imagine. In fact, he chose this island specifically because he thought it'll be the perfect place for no one to disturb him. It is implied that this happened hundreds of years ago, so he could likely have fallen asleep for almost 4 decades until the Wild Hunt invasion came, the time when the Fatui came and did not help the Lightkeepers. During this time, Kyryll awakened from his slumber, but at first, he remained indifferent seeing the Lightkeepers slowly being killed by the Wild Hunts, warm blood spilling all over the land, and some even spilled to Kyryll's tomb. It was until a Kratnik prayed in front of Kyryll's Fae language written tomb, praying to an old god that no longer answered their calls. Kyryll, looking at them praying like this, smiled in amusement at that prayer, remembering the nobles of Snezhnaya that used to mock him for being the Azure flame that guides the dead souls. Who would have thought that humans would eventually pray to him again, with blood and flesh as the price of reigniting the Azure flame once again? In fact, this is the same exact line in the Long Night's Oath artifact set, implying that Kyryll was the one being mentioned in this case, and the Kratnik that prayed to Flins was a descendant of Lofi, the first Torchforger, who was also a noble from Snezhnaya that ended up living in Nod-Krai since childhood at the time. The amused Kyryll then awakens from his slumber, and while this is supposed to be a grand and glorious moment, the Kratnik that prayed knew really well that this will be his end, recognizing that the blue fire is a sign of death. The island was scorched into blazing blue fire, engulfing everyone, including the monsters that also knew their end. To honor all of those who died during the battle, Kyryll and the surviving Lightkeepers buried them all in that island, thus gaining its name as the Final Night Cemetery. And this is also the time when Kyryll used his final name to introduce to others, Kyryll Chudomirovich Flins, but they may call him as Flins. And thank God they named him that, because my tongue is hurting really bad right now. What we witnessed in Flins' character demo is basically what happened at the time in a form of flashback, while also jumping to the present day where Flins helped Yehoda, preventing her from falling to the cliff. We learn in Flins' hangouts that the souls in Final Night Cemetery often reenact events that happened in the past, and what happened in his trailer is literally just that. If anything, this is likely what happened to Yehoda after talking to her in front of the artifact domain at the Baha Isle. Never, please, this poor girl literally risked her life for a cat. Now the fun thing about Flins is that the traveler knows it's more than just using elemental energy in order to make himself quote-unquote vanish and turn into a lantern. Well, that's because Faes don't need to use elemental energy, and in fact, they already have powers without using a vision or a moon wheel. It's likely because he himself was created by using the Frost Moon's power according to the finale of the Deep Galleries, and it is implied that Flins obtained his moon wheel quite recently when he was stationed at Nasha Town. In fact, in his own character story, it is heavily implied that the thunder and blue flame that was raging at that battle in Final Night Cemetery was using his own power. Damn, knowing that makes him way more badass than he already was. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So far, these are the only known Lightkeepers lore that we have, and I have to say, this patch and Flins' lore solidify and elaborate a lot of things in the Long Night's Oath artifact set. What do you think of the Lightkeepers so far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tjena!